Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nawreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden issues his first veto, nixing measure blocking new investment rule. Trump's call for protest draws muted reaction from supporters. Ron DeSantis breaks his silence on a possible Trump indictment. American held hostage since 2016 in West Africa released. Buster murder says he had nothing to do with teen's hit and run death. Jury convicts 3 men of murder in rapper XXXTentacion's death. 5 children dead after SUV veers off a New York highway and catches fire. Boy 9 survives. Colorado dentist accused of killing wife with poison in complex and calculated murder. Amazon to lay off 9,000 more workers after earlier cuts. Adam Sandler receives Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. Bruce Willis celebrates 68th birthday with family after dementia diagnosis. China's leader Xi Jinping meets Putin in Moscow days after Russian leader charged with war crimes. Macron's government survives no confidence vote over contentious pension plan. Deadly earthquake in Ecuador brings grief and fear. US routs Cuba 14-2 to reach World Baseball Classic final. And Alcaraz at number 1, Nadal out of top 10, first time in 18 years. You were listening to headlines, now news in detail. President Joe Biden on Monday issued his first veto since taking office, rejecting a bipartisan measure that would nullify a new administration rule for retirement plans. I just signed this veto because the legislation passed by the Congress would put at risk the retirement savings of individuals across the country, Biden said in a video posted on his Twitter account. They couldn't take into consideration investments that would be impacted by climate, impacted by overpaying executives, and that's why I decided to veto it. The veto comes after the Senate voted 50-46 on March 1 to pass a resolution blocking a Labor Department rule allowing for certain retirement plans to weigh environmental, social, and corporate governance factors when selecting investments instead of making decisions based solely on the base rate of return. In the Senate vote, Democratic Senators Joe Manchin of West Virginia and John Tester of Montana joined Republicans to pass the measure. The House passed it on February 28 in a 216-204 vote, with Representative Jared Golden of Maine backing his party to vote with Republicans. A 2/3 majority is needed in each chamber to override a veto. Former President Donald Trump's calls for protest ahead of his anticipated indictment in New York have generated mostly muted reactions from supporters. with even some of his most ardent loyalists dismissing the idea as a waste of time or a law enforcement trap. The ambivalence raises questions about whether Trump, though a leading Republican contender in the 2024 presidential race, who retains a devoted following, still has the power to mobilize far-right supporters the way he did more than 2 years ago before the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the US Capitol. It also suggests that the hundreds of arrests that followed the Capitol riot, not to mention the convictions and long prison sentences, may have dampened the desire for repeat mass unrest. Still, law enforcement in New York is continuing to closely monitor online chatter warning of protest and violence if Trump is arrested, with threats varying in specificity and credibility. Four officials told the Associated Press. Mainly posted online and in chat groups, the messages have included calls for armed protesters to block law enforcement officers and attempt to stop any potential arrest, the officials said. The New York Young Republican Club has announced plans for a protest at an undisclosed location in Manhattan on Monday, and incendiary but isolated posts surfaced on French social media platforms from supporters calling for an armed confrontation with law enforcement at Trump's Florida state Mar-a-Lago. After remaining silent over the weekend, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took shots at the Soros-funded prosecutor in Manhattan involved in an ongoing hush money case against former President Donald Trump. I have no interest in getting involved in some manufactured circus by some Soros DA, DeSantis said at a news conference Monday, referring to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. He is trying to do a political spectacle. He is trying to virtue signal for his base. I have got real issues I got to deal with here in the state of Florida. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. The Manhattan District Attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor, he added. DeSantis accused the district attorney of weaponizing his office by going after Trump, charging that the prosecutor had overlooked other, more recent crimes in the meantime. But even as he echoed the criticism Trump's defenders have leveled at Bragg, DeSantis, the strongest challenger to Trump for the 2024 Republican nomination, took great care to repeat the salacious allegations facing the former president. I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that, DeSantis said, to laughter in the background. Then, referring to the prosecutor again, he added, that's an example of pursuing a political agenda. The comments came after Trump late last week announced that he expected he would be arrested in the ongoing case in Manhattan on Tuesday. Liberal mega-donor George Soros, through the Color of Change PSC, supported Bragg's campaign for Manhattan DA. Jeff Udik, an American aid worker held hostage in West Africa for more than 6 years, has been released, according to U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Udik was taken from his home in Abalak, Niger, in 2016 by a terrorist network that operates across Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. He was released outside of Niger in the Mali-Burkina Faso area, a senior administration official said. I am gratified and relieved to see the release of U.S. hostage Jeff Udik after over 6 years in captivity, Sullivan tweeted Monday morning. The U.S. thanks Niger for its help in bringing him home to all who miss and love him. I thank so many across our government who have worked tirelessly towards securing his freedom. Udik lived in Niger for years before he was taken, helping people groups in the Sahel region. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Niger as part of a trip to Africa last week. Also on Monday, the non-profit group Reporters Without Borders announced that French journalist Olivier Dubois was released after being hostage for 711 days by an armed group affiliated with Al-Qaeda in the Sahel. The non-profit group said the journalist resurfaced free and smiling on Monday in Niger's capital. Buster Murder, the older son of former attorney of note and convicted murderer Alex Murder, is pleading to have his name omitted from news coverage of the death of a young man in 2015. Buster Murder, who is 26 years old, has not been connected with the death of Stephen Smith, who was 19 when his body was found on a country road in Hampton County, South Carolina. The discovery was made roughly 15 miles from the murder home and 2 to 3 miles from Smith's vehicle, which had apparently run out of gas. These baseless rumors of my involvement with Stephen and his death are false, he said in a statement Monday. I unequivocally deny any involvement in his death, and my heart goes out to the Smith family. I am requesting that the media immediately stop publishing these defamatory comments and rumors about me, Murder said. A July 8, 2015 autopsy report by pathologists at the University of South Carolina determined that Smith had been struck by a vehicle. It cited as evidence for that conclusion a stretched brain stem, irregular abrasions and contusions, and blood in his airways. The report also ruled out gunfire, noting the absence of projectiles or bullet fragments in his body. A jury on Monday convicted the three men accused of murdering rapper XXXTentacion in Florida in 2018, following more than a week of deliberations. The 20-year-old artist, whose real name was Jesse Onfroy, was shot to death on June 18, 2018, outside of a motorcycle shop in Deerfield Beach, north of Miami. In the attack, the rapper was in a car leaving Riva Motorsports when an SUV blocked his vehicle and two masked gunmen came out of it, the Broward County Sheriff's Office said at the time. One repeatedly shot at the rapper, and the assailants grabbed a Louis Vuitton bag from the car with $50,000 inside and escaped in the SUV, authorities said. Dedrick Williams, Trayvon Newsome, and Michael Boatwright were each found guilty of first-degree murder and armed robbery in Broward County Court. All three men are scheduled to return to court on April 6 for a sentencing hearing. The first-degree murder charges come with life sentences. The trio had pleaded not guilty. A fourth person, Robert Allen, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder last year and testified for the prosecution against the other three. 5 children from Connecticut, ranging in age from 8 to 17, were killed in a ferry crash on a New York highway, police said. Police believe the vehicle was being driven by a 16-year-old boy when it veered off the Hutchinson River Parkway early Sunday in Scarsdale, hit a tree, and caught fire. A 9-year-old boy, the sixth person in the Nissan Rogue, was the only survivor, according to a statement provided by Kieran O'Leary, a spokesperson for the Westchester County Police Department. The 9-year-old was apparently riding in the rear hatchback or cargo area and escaped out the rear, according to the statement. The boy was taken to the hospital with injuries that were not life-threatening. The 5 who were killed include 4 boys and a girl from Connecticut. Westchester County officials identified them as Malik Smith, Anthony Billups Jr., Jahnia Cross, Chanel Cross, and Andrew Billups. Smith was the driver, according to the news station. The surviving boy's name was not released. A Colorado dentist has been arrested for allegedly poisoning his wife in what police called a heinous, complex, and calculated murder. James Tolliver Craig was arrested early Sunday by patrol officers and homicide investigators, Aurora police said in a news release. He was booked around 2 a.m. into the county jail on charges of first-degree murder. Investigators say that on Wednesday night, Craig drove his 43-year-old wife to a local hospital because she was complaining of severe headaches and dizziness. His wife's condition deteriorated quickly at the hospital, police said, and she was placed on a ventilator in an intensive care unit. She was declared brain dead a short time later. Homicide detectives launched an investigation and determined that the victim had been poisoned. Authorities did not say how the woman was poisoned, nor did they reveal any other details about the alleged crime. After doctors made the decision to take the woman off life support, police obtained a warrant for first-degree murder early Sunday morning, according to a work bio and video posted online. Craig is married with 6 children. He said he taught as an associate professor at the University of Missouri School of Dentistry for 3 years and has been practicing dentistry in the Aurora area since 2006. Amazon will lay off 9,000 more employees, CEO Andy Jassy said in a memo to staff on Monday. The cuts are on top of the previous layoffs that commenced last November and extended into January. That round affected more than 18,000 employees. Amazon made the decision to lay off more employees as it looks to streamline costs and took into account the uncertain economy, as well as the uncertainty that exists in the near future, Jassy said. The company just wrapped up the second phase of its annual budgeting process, referred to internally as OP2. The overriding tenet of our annual planning this year was to be leaner while doing so in a way that enables us to still invest robustly in the key long-term customer experiences that we believe can meaningfully improve customers' lives and Amazon as a whole, Jassy said. The latest round will primarily impact Amazon's cloud computing, human resources, advertising, and Twitch live streaming businesses, Jassy said in the memo. Amazon is trimming its headcount after it went on a hiring spree during the COVID pandemic. The company's global workforce swelled to more than 1.6 million by the end of 2021, up from 798,000 in the fourth quarter of 2019. Surrounded by loved ones and famous friends, Adam Sandler was honored with the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. on Sunday night. The longtime funny man from Brooklyn was celebrated by fellow comics and actors, including Jennifer Aniston, Chris Rock, Drew Barrymore, and Conan O'Brien. The award show was filled with praise and light-hearted jokes at the expense of Sandler. Director Judd Apatow, Sandler's former roommate, recalled his confidence early on. "The moment you met him, you knew Adam was going to be a big star," Apatow said. And so did Adam. With the bronze statue of Twain in hand, Sandler joked it one day might be the weapon used to bludgeon me in my sleep. The award ceremony will air on CNN on March 26. Sandler sharpened his comedic talent while attending New York University and later went off to Los Angeles to further his career. He was eventually cast in Saturday Night Live in 1990 and became a national sensation. After getting fired from the show, he turned into a movie star and acted in dozens of movies, including Billy Madison, The Wedding Singer, The Longest Yard, Uncut Gems, and Hustle, earning over $4 billion worldwide, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Throughout his career, he has been known to often recast his friends and create funny songs to go in them. Bruce Willis celebrated his 68th birthday with loved ones on Sunday, over a month after the beloved actor was diagnosed with dementia. Actress Demi Moore, Willis' ex-wife, shared the video of their family getting together singing "Happy Birthday" to the Hollywood legend. "Happy birthday, BW. So glad we could celebrate you today. Love you and love your family. Thank you to everyone for the love and warm wishes. We all feel them," she tweeted along with the footage. The clip shows Willis' daughters and current wife Emma Heming Willis surrounding him and the actor blowing out candles from his cake. Emma Heming Willis also wrote a heartfelt Instagram post about her husband. calling him pure love. My birthday wish for Bruce is that you continue to keep him in your prayers and highest vibrations because his sensitive Pisces soul will feel it. Thank you so much for loving and caring for him too, Willis wrote. The actor's family said last month he was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, which could bring on challenges with communication, according to the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration. It came almost a year after Willis stepped away from his acting career because of an aphasia diagnosis. However, as noted by his family, his condition has deteriorated. Earlier this month, Emma Heming Willis pleaded with paparazzi to give the actor space and to not yell at him when he is public. Now it's time for global updates. China's President Xi Jinping arrived Monday in Moscow for his first visit to Russia since his counterpart Vladimir Putin launched his invasion of Ukraine. Xi's visit was expected to last 3 days. I am confident that the visit will be fruitful and give new impetus to the healthy and stable development of China-Russia relations, of comprehensive partnership and strategic cooperation in a new era, Xi said after arriving in Moscow, according to state-run Russian news agency TASS. The Chinese leader was greeted by Putin, who commended China's growth in recent years, saying, "We even envy you a little." Putin also said that he had carefully studied China's proposal to end the war in Ukraine. That plan, which urges respect for the sovereignty of all countries, does not call for a withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine. You are also aware that we are always open to the negotiation process. We will, of course, discuss all these issues, including your initiatives, which we treat with respect, Putin said. I expect that during the visit, I will thoroughly exchange views with President Vladimir Putin on bilateral relations and important regional and international topics of mutual interest, and outline a plan for developing strategic interaction and practical cooperation, she said. The Chinese leader's visit comes amid concerns that China may be preparing to provide lethal weapons to Russia for its war in Ukraine, which China denies. It also comes days after Putin was accused of war crimes, including orchestrating the forced removal of Ukrainian children to Russian territory by prosecutors at the International Criminal Court (ICC). France faces a day of reckoning Monday as the parliament holds a key vote on no-confidence motions that could potentially lead to the government's collapse after days of fiery protests over a pension plan. President Emmanuel Macron's long-promised plan to raise the national retirement age from 62 to 64 has sparked weeks of national strikes and demonstrations, and police have clashed with protesters in cities across the country. Police said some 4,000 protesters gathered in the Place d'Italie in southern Paris on Saturday, many chanting "Macron resigned," as trash bins were set alight and officers responded by firing tear gas. More than 160 people were arrested across the country, the Interior Ministry said Sunday. Lawmakers have tabled 2 no-confidence motions against Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne and her government in the National Assembly, the lower chamber of the French Parliament, which drives through new laws. Borne, Macron's appointed majority leader, and her cabinet of ministers would be obliged to stand down if at least 287 lawmakers back one of the motions in a vote Monday afternoon. The president himself is safe. Macron was re-elected for a second and final term last summer, albeit on a much reduced majority thanks to a surge in support for the far-right National Assembly, and he can appoint a new government without the need for an election unless he chooses to hold one. But if the government falls, so does the pension bill, leaving the president and his flagship economic policy floundering. Some affectionately call Machala the banana capital of the world. This port community on Ecuador's Pacific coast is home to about 250,000 people and normally bustles with commercial activity. But not this weekend, not after the deadly quake. Grief hung in the air on Sunday, a day after a powerful tremor rocked this city, toppling homes and buildings along the coast and as far off as the Ecuadorian highlands and even parts of Peru. Rubble covered some streets of Machala. Neighbors held simple funerals to bury the dead. A pier was no more. And a day after the quake that killed 9 residents alone along this hard-hit coast, many in Machala were feeling anguished and uneasy. The quake, which the U.S. Geological Survey reported at magnitude 6.8, killed at least 15 people and injured more than 445 others. 14 died in Ecuador and 1 in Peru. The quake damaged and brought down hundreds of homes and buildings in vastly different communities, both in coastal areas and the highlands. But in Ecuador, regardless of geography, many of the homes that crumbled had much in common. Many were old, did not meet modern building standards of a quake-prone country, and many of their inhabitants were poor. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 14,599.05. The NYSE composite is decreased by 231.93 points or 1.56%. Tokyo stock close price is 26,945.67. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 388.12 points or 1.42%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,234.9103. The Shanghai Composite Index is decreased by 15.64 points or 0.48%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,000.71. The Hang Seng Index is decreased by 517.88 points or 2.65%. Bombay stock close price is 57,628.95. The Sensex index is decreased by 360.95 points or 0.62%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Trey Turner, Paul Goldschmidt and an unrelenting US lineup kept putting crooked numbers on the scoreboard. A dynamic display of the huge gap between an American team of major leaguers and Cubans struggling on the world stage as top players have left the island nation. Turner homered twice to give him a tournament-leading 4, driving in 4 rounds to lead the US to a 14-2 rout Sunday night and advance the defending champion Americans to the World Baseball Classic final. Goldschmidt also homered and had 4 RBIs, and Cedric Mullins went deep in a game interrupted 3 times by fans running on the field to display protest signs. The team kind of represents the government over there, and people aren't too happy about it, US manager Mark DeRosa said. The US plays Japan or Mexico in Tuesday night's championship, trying to join the Samurai Warriors as the only nations to win the title twice. Carlos Alcaraz returned to number 1 in the ATP rankings on Monday, replacing Novak Djokovic, and Rafael Nadal dropped out of the top 10 for the first time in 18 years. Alcaraz rose 1 spot, swapping places with Djokovic, a day after ending Daniil Medvedev's 19-match winning streak by beating him in straight sets in the final at Indian Wells, California. Alcaraz, a 19-year-old from Spain who first ascended to number 1 by winning the US Open in September, didn't drop a set in the hard-court tournament. Djokovic has spent more weeks at number 1 than any man or woman in tennis history. He did not play in Indian Wells because he is not allowed to enter the United States as a foreign citizen who is not vaccinated against COVID-19. He also will miss the Miami Open that begins this week. Alcaraz is the defending champion there. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV US and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.